You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Mr. Mo Kelly here with Jackie Ray as we get ready to go beyond the box score, and we're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Jackie Ray, good evening. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm a little tired, a little hoarse from yelling at the TV.
Now, this may be an unpopular opinion, as the young folk may say, but I found the game very boring, for lack of a better word. There wasn't a lot of excitement. I thought the commercials were some of the worst that I have seen in many years. The overall experience was very lacking for me. What was it for you?
I was very much rooting for Jalen to get his ring. So I enjoyed that aspect of it. I enjoyed to see Saquon. But other than that, very much so. It was literally kind of just watching those two players do their thing. It wasn't exciting on the field. The commercials were horrendous. I don't know if you saw the very first one where it had Seal as a seal.
As Seal.
And when I saw that, I looked at my friend. I said, oh, this is going to be a really bad commercial season for them. But it was really kind of dull. Obviously the opening of the game was great. The halftime show was great, but this is not what we're used to seeing during the Super Bowl. I'm used to being in a bar like I was yesterday, where people literally go quiet during the commercials because they want to see something that's entertaining. Awful. Absolutely dreadful.
Now, let me give you a little bit of counterpoint. I said originally, talking about the halftime show, when they announced Kendrick Lamar, I said something to the effect of, I like Kendrick Lamar. In fact, I'm from LA. I get him and everything that he's about. I don't know if that translates to, number one, a national audience, and I knew it wouldn't translate to an NFL TV audience. I appreciated the message. It was message laden.
Man.
Oh, okay. I could spend an hour talking about his treatise on society and where African Americans fit in the concept of being an American. But from a performance aspect, I thought the show was
I was the opposite. Listen, I did not care that it was specifically for that song, They Not Like Us. It was definitely about that. He catered that song to a specific demographic. He catered that whole show to a specific demographic. And for me, in this current climate, when that specific demographic is being attacked, having that moment on that international stage, really, where he was unabandoned in his blackness, in his pro-blackness. And literally, if you're not on an intellectual level, you missed a lot of what was happening in that. And I love him for that.
Something we talked about last week, sports gambling, how you can't put this horse back in the barn, this toothpaste back in the tube, and we knew it was going to go somewhere really bad. Last week, we were talking about the NBA, but it actually applied to all professional sports. And I don't know, maybe a day or two after we talked last week, did you know, in fact, I know you know because you saw the story about it was covered in Forbes. I mean, it wasn't like ESPN, but the MLB, Major League Baseball, fired an umpire for the violation of the league's betting rules. I don't need to go into the specifics. I'm just letting you know this is where all professional sports are going with gambling. They're going to have major issues with the concept of gambling in sports. What did you take away from that?
We called it. I knew it was happening. What I found, to kind of bring it back to the NFL, one of the things I found interesting is the bar where I was at, there was a lot of Chiefs fans, and the outrage from these fans because they weren't getting the assistance from the refs that the Chiefs have that the Chiefs have received throughout the season. And I remember looking at my friend and I was like, I wonder if there's a discussion in this, because like it or not, if you've watched the Chiefs play, you know that they do get a lot of assistance from the refs, and it was not like that. And I was like, there's got to be a parlay bet out there somewhere that says in the fourth quarter, the Chiefs are going to go on like a 20-point run or something. And there's got to be some sort of parlay bet on that, because there's always parlay bets like that. But I didn't see the refs getting involved yesterday.
Let me back up for people who may not know or follow the NFL closely. The Chiefs were winning literally all of their games of the last drive of the game, and there would be some penalty, some controversial call, something which would happen, which inevitably would go the Chiefs' way. And so there was this growing cacophony of voices saying that the Chiefs must be in league with the refs, or something is bought and paid for. And whereas I can stand back and laugh at that, when you see stories about a Major League Baseball umpire being fired for betting on some level, when you see the stories in the NBA about players shaving their minutes or their production, to satisfy bettors, it puts all of our professional sports in a different context, where, as I may say, no, that's malarkey. There's no way the Chiefs and the referees are in league. There's no funny business going on. The other side of me is saying, like, wait, hold on now, slow down. It may not be that, but there is an argument to be made that there's more about sports and betting, which just hasn't come to the surface.
Listen, I tell everybody, one of my favorite old school iconic clips from sports is Michael Jordan complaining about a call that a ref made, and him walking up to that ref and the ref telling him, I didn't see that, Michael, but if you said it, I believe you, because he's a fan of Michael Jordan. So this happens in sports where you've seen a game called a certain way because you can tell that a ref or an umpire, he has a fondness for a certain player or a certain team. You add money on top of that fandom, now you're just dealing with a whole different beast. So it's entirely possible. Let me take that back. It's highly likely that it is really happening, and it's just, like you said, hasn't come to surface yet.
Since we're pretty good at making predictions, especially when it comes to sports betting and also possibly the corruption of professional sports as we know it, where do you think it goes from here? Are we looking at the possibility, because we've seen an individual referee in the NBA, Tim Donaghy. We've seen an individual umpire in baseball be fired because of his personal betting. We've seen an individual interpreter of a player who also got just under 5 years, supposedly, and I say supposedly because I don't believe the full story, that he was betting for himself and stealing from Shohei Ohtani. Those are individuals. How long do you think we see something larger than that, which could implicate a number of players on the same team or a number of individuals connected to the same franchise?
I think it's around the corner, number one, and I think it's going to be capped off with you finding out an owner was in cahoots on something. I just think that the rabbit hole is that deep. And the reason why I think that is because this isn't just people betting. There's a relationship between sports betting and sports. You see DraftKings on the floor. You see FanDuel in commercials. There is a relationship. And what do you have to do in relationships? There's a give and take. There's an understanding that I'm going to do this. You need to do this for me. So I've always said that once you start this marriage, and we're seeing this definitely marriage, this partnership between sports and betting, now it gets very, very gray. And now what you're expecting people to do is to overlook the relationship that you have, overlook that you're probably giving somebody. I've seen athletes that say, hey, go to DraftKings, most of them are retired, but there's still this relationship between these two entities. It's too murky. It's just too muddy. There's no way that the temptation's not going to be there. And in some cases, there's no way that it's not going to be beneficial for one entity to really exploit this relationship. So it's too muddy for me. I don't like it.
We'll see if we're right again next week. When we come back, we have to get into what the NC2A has done. They recently, I'll say, signed on with what President Trump has done as far as officially banning trans athletes from women's sports. And they wasted no time in doing that. That's next on Beyond the Box Score with Jackie Ray and me, Mo Kelly. This is Later with Mo Kelly, KFI AM 640, live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
Later with Mo Kelly on KFI AM 640.
The The NCAA has changed its participation policy surrounding transgender athletes, limiting competition to those assigned female at birth. It comes after President Donald Trump signed an executive order intended to bar trans athletes from participating in women's and girls' sports. The NCAA's revised policy permits athletes assigned male at birth to practice with women's teams and receive benefits such as medical care while practicing. It takes effect right away.
KFI, Mo Kelly and Jackie Ray. We're going beyond the box score, and we're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app on Later with Mo Kelly. Let me just start right here. I don't agree with President Trump on a lot. I don't like the spirit in which this has been done because I think it demonizes and also points a lot of negativity at trans people. And I'm going to nuance my way through this. But the issue, I'm in alignment with him. I agree with him. What about you, Jackie Ray?
Yeah, I think a broken clock can be right twice a day. And this is one of the times that Donald Trump is right. But I'm with you. It's the spirit. So I think if this is your stance, I'm okay with the stance, but I am not okay with a lack of humanity within the stance. So if this is your position, fine. There has to be some conversations. Number one, how many trans athletes right now immediately will be affected by this? I haven't seen a single person talk about that. I don't know what that number is because that number hasn't been floating around out there. That should have been the first thing we've seen. These are the number of trans athletes, because that number might be incredibly low or it might be high, and then that might change people's perceptions. But we don't have that number, so people can't have an educated conversation about this. So that's number one. Number two, if there are trans athletes that are going to be affected by this, what are the provisions that we are going to make? How are we going to start building? Because I have been a huge advocate of saying, yes, there's different divisions, there are different categories in every single sport. This can be another opportunity. So if there are trans athletes that are going to be affected by this, what provisions are we providing? Are we starting to build up another way for them to compete? I highly doubt that a trans woman would want to all of a sudden go start competing in a male sport. But if that's what they want to do, is that an option? What options have you given people who really are dedicated to their craft and playing the sport? And how many trans people have you really sat down with and had a conversation and said, hey, you're trans, I'm not. What do you think we should do in this case if this is how we're going to proceed? Those conversations are not happening. And to me, that's a lack of humanity. And that's just not right.
I could end the conversation right here because you covered all the points that I wanted to make. And chiefly, do not lose our humanity. And I don't think the humanity has been included in this for all the reasons that you've articulated. These are human beings. These are people who should be included in the conversation. Now, it doesn't mean that we'll agree with the ultimate recommendations or the decisions which are being made, but these are people who should be included in the conversation. I personally would have felt much better if it were rolled out not as somehow as part of a flex, not as somehow part of a diss, but an understanding, but a choice to go in a different direction. If you are making this decision because, look, I understand the desire to be included in a sports sense. I understand the desire that society is continuing to evolve, but for the sake of sports and the sake of fair level and the equal playing field and level of competition, this needs to be done. That sends a very different message than I don't want men competing with women, or, you're making a political argument and trying to satisfy a political base as opposed to trying to do what's best for people, which is inclusive of the trans community.
Yeah, but that's not his administration. His administration is not about including people who don't align with whatever he's got going on in his head. That's just not who he is. And that is the problem. And I would just encourage people. I know a lot of people identify with him because of that, because they have an exclusionary spirit as well. But I would just implore people to back away from that, because there's going to come a time when you're going to have something or an ideology, or maybe one day you get an injury and now all of a sudden you're impaired in a way. There's going to come a time in your life when you want to be included in something that people are trying to exclude you from. And then once you understand how that feels, then you'll have a level of empathy, but it'll be too late by then. So I really encourage people to have empathy now, because it's okay to say, I don't understand this group of people. I don't understand how they decided to do this to All that is fine to say, I don't understand. But lean into that. Lean into the fact that you don't understand, and then go to that group of people and try to gain some understanding. That's what humanity is all about.
My first question is, whenever I talk to anyone about any particular community or any particular subject, is who have you talked with, sat down with, broken bread with from the community? Who do you know in that community? Because are you just telling me what you think, what you believe, or are you speaking from an informed perspective, which is inclusive of their concerns? Because if you can't speak to their concerns, then I really can't take your opinion seriously. I may intellectually agree with you, but you're not coming from the standpoint of humanity. But you've already made that point, so there's no need for me to restate it. Jackie Ray, I appreciate talking to you, and a lot of these conversations are both complex and nuanced. We may agree with the ultimate result, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we agree with the path to get there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And covering the WNBA, Layshia Clarendon was one of the first people who came out as transgender. She goes by she, him, and his. She goes by all of those. But having conversations with Layshia really opened my eyes to this is a deep well that I have no idea how deep it is. I've never been in the well. I haven't had a personal experience where I can relate to this well. So the only way I'm going to get a sense of what that feels like and how they would like to navigate that space is to continue to have those types of conversations. So shout out to Layshia for putting that out there and continuing that conversation. And I implore other people to do the same.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And if you follow the box office returns as closely as I do, you should already know that, especially during the dead of winter, fewer movies are released. Fewer people go to the theaters, especially if you don't live in California, if you live in a place with inclement weather. I mean, hell, it's getting ready to rain here for a few days. We're dealing with possibly flash floods and even mudslides. So our box office most likely will be depressed at least for the next few days. The point is, it's very difficult for movie theaters to generate enough revenue to stay afloat in today's environment generally, and during the winter specifically. And you see that play out when you have the number one movie this past weekend, which was Dog Man. Dog Man. It grossed $13.8 million domestically, which is really nothing. It has a total gross of $54 million. In its second week, it's still able to be number one. Number two, Mark Ronner talked about it, is Heart Eyes, came in with $8.3 million. And the number three movie is Love Hurts. I don't even know what that is. $5.8 million.
Oh, that's the Ke Huy Quan action.
That's
movie,
right.
Where he's a retired hitman who's somehow called back into action. We've never heard that before.
I have never seen that story told. That's a story that needs to be told one day.
Totally original.
And if you look at the number of theaters, if you really drill down, Heart Eyes was only in 3,100 theaters. Love Hurts was only in 3,000 theaters. Max theater placement is around 4,400 to 4,500 theaters, which means even the new movies are not getting broad placement. It's really difficult for movie theaters to stay in business if they don't have new titles, meaningful titles people are going to come out and see, and possibly see multiple times, or definitely see during the week. It's one thing to have movies and you get some business on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If the business was so slow this weekend for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, what does it mean for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? It's got to be far worse. Mufasa, The Lion King, has been out 8 weeks. Okay, for it to stay in theaters for 8 weeks, that means theaters don't have a better option. They would replace it in a heartbeat if they had something better. It brought in $4 billion this week. It's done well overall, big picture, but it's not doing much for theaters now.
Yeah, my daughter hated that. But I do believe that even still, we talk about this all the time, there has to be something else going on at the theater to draw you out. The new theater that you go to, what's the name? Sinopolis. From all accounts, from everything you say, it's dinner and a movie. There's a bar. There's a lot of things happening there for adults, for people who are going to go out and want to go see a movie. The seats are nice, the screens are nice, and it's the entire ambiance involved. That's what it's going to take. Alamo Drafthouse, we talk about them all the time. It is more than just a movie theater. AMC is trying. They try to bring in the bar and they try to really step up their snacks and things like that. But again, most of the time, and this is not a slight against AMC because that's the theater that I go to most of the time. Every time I go, it's pretty much me and like 20 other people. And this is in major releases.
And that's not a viable business model. Financially, that can't work long term. Where you have the theater open, you have the concessionaire, you have the person tearing the tickets, and you have the person, I don't know, cleaning the bathroom or something, and you're paying for keep the lights on for 15 people in the theater.
Yeah, and this is still a better year for releases than in previous years. I believe that films like Dogman Cop. What was this?
Dogman,
Better Man, and Dogman. Both of those. I think that those are in such limited release, if only because they're like, look, there's no chance anyone is going to go see our movies come this Friday. Everyone will be seeing Captain America: Brave New World. That's it. It's a wrap. And then after that, the movies actually do start rolling out one after another.
Now, for Captain America: Brave New World, what is working against it is it's coming out in the winter. That works against it generally, if only because it's the winter and you don't know what weather you're going to get around the country. What is working for it is there's nothing else going up against it.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. So if people want to go see it, and they will, the team, we're going to go see it on Thursday night. In fact, we're going to see it Thursday. I'm going to see it Sunday at a free screen with the friend that's providing for us, and maybe some other time.
Yeah, I'm seeing it Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's already three showings from me, at least. I just know that this is gonna be tough, and I believe that Captain America coming out in February, it's coming out almost at the exact same time as the first Black Panther, and I think there's something about wanting to come out specifically at that time from the filmmakers, from Disney, from everyone to occupy that space, because Black Panther did $1 billion dropping when it did. I think that this film, from everything we're seeing and everything I'm reading about all of the surprises and the things that happen in this film, beyond the fact that it's another Marvel film, and so far, again, Disney has kept the theater chains open. No arguing that. I think this is something that's going to be very special via word of mouth.
I try to tell people all the time, you can hate on Disney all you want, but if Disney doesn't do well, say goodbye to your local movie theater. I'm not talking about the chains. I'm talking about the mom and pops. I'm talking about the one-offs, that favorite theater that you have. If Disney movies don't do well, like, for example, Captain America: Brave New World, since there's a dearth of movies in theaters at all, when the big movies come to town, you need them to do well. You need them to stay in theaters longer, and you need people to see them multiple times during the week, because otherwise, you can kiss your favorite movie theater goodbye. It's just as simple. It's basic math. And we're going to see it on Thursday. We'll probably have Mark Ronner will have a review in the Ronner Report on Friday.
That's a pretty fast turnaround. I don't know.
Wait, what?
I'm quite sure you can work it out.
Yeah, we'll figure
I'm
something
sure you can
out.
Eat
Try
something
harder.
out. I'm sure. I mean, you don't get up till the crack of 5 p.m. So
yeah, something thoughtful and really well written. Yeah, we'll get right on that. You guys are seeing it 3 times each.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to see it the once.
Well, one time I'm supporting someone else, and another time I'll probably see it with my family. So it's at least 3 times.
Yeah, but same. I'm seeing it with the crew. Then I'm seeing it Saturday with the family, and Sunday seeing it in support of our friend and Nerdorama co-host, Dr. Liz from the Freeway, who has gained her tenure as a professor.
Yep,
it's like a professor screening.
It's a party.
Nice. Well, I hope it's one of those that that does make you want to see it again right away. Like that's the feeling I had coming out of the Winter Soldier movie. Wanted to see it again right away. And this one looks terrific from the trailers.
It seems like it has the same tonality. It's serious. It's I don't want to say darker, but it's just a more serious tone.
As serious as you could be with a big red Hulk in it.
Yeah. No one-liners. It doesn't seem like it's going for one-liners. Like Tony Stark one-liners.
No. I mean, that was as abhorrent as the Flash film was. The more I reflect on that, the more I think it was nothing but a movie of comedy one-liners.
And I can't stand that anymore. I just can't take that from Marvel or anyone else. I just don't want that. If there are really stakes and the world is at stake and this is going to happen, that's going to happen, you don't have jokes all the time. Not all the time.
Yeah, give it a rest from time to time.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
And before I get out of here is my final thought. By now, you probably have heard the news that at least one person died and several others were injured after a plane crashed into another jet at Scottsdale Airport in Arizona today. And a Cessna 208B crashed into sea ice just outside of Nome, Alaska, after going missing during a flight last Thursday afternoon. 10 people dead. That's after 6 passengers of a medical jet and 1 person on the ground were killed after the plane crashed in a Philadelphia neighborhood last Friday evening. And all of this is in the wake of the Reagan National Airport mid-air collision over the Potomac, which killed 67 people. Are the collisions, are the accidents, are the crashes related? Of course not. Not specifically, at least, but emotionally, they all connect in our recent memories. Our politics, as of late, has embraced the idea of just blaming the previous guy. I'm old enough to remember, maybe you are too, but I'm old enough to remember it was said, the buck stops here. But that's no longer the case. Now it's just blame, blame, blame. But I did find a quote that I especially liked that I want to close out with. And it goes like this. Leaders, true leaders, take responsibility for the success of the team and understand that they must also take responsibility for the failure. It's so good, I'm going to read it twice. Leaders, true leaders, take responsibility for the success of the team and understand that they must also take responsibility for the failure, close quote. That quote is from Donald Trump. And I'll take him at his word. I honestly don't know what is going on with our planes and air traffic control, but I do know we only have one president at a time. And I do know only one head of our federal government at a time. And the answer to this, whatever this is, but it is a problem, but the answer to this must come from the top. And here are the facts. Our president fired the head of the Transportation Security Administration, fired the entire Aviation Security Advisory Committee, froze hiring of all air traffic controllers, fired 100 top FAA security officers, all on the same day. The same day. He's not been a passive participant in this. He's been very much involved. But again, blame and responsibility are not the same. Blame is looking back. You're trying to say, well, this happened in the past. This person did this. So therefore, they are responsible. It's an excuse. It's a cop-out. It's an abdication of responsibility. That's blame. Blame is the easy way out. Responsibility, at least from where I sit, it's about going forward. And tonight, I'm assessing no blame. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, Biden did this. And it's not to protect Biden. It's just because blame doesn't solve the future problem. Blame doesn't tell us what we need to do if and when the next plane crashes. And unfortunately, if the past is prologue, there's a distinct possibility that there may be another issue in the very near future. And it can't be always the other person's fault if you're the person in charge. You're the person who wanted the job. You're the person who got the job. So then, as the job holder, you are judged by your job performance. And again, I'm not going to assess any blame, but I am going to do this. I'm going to look at future responsibility. Let's just say all bets are off and the clock starts now. This is our president's baby. Whatever happens going forward, given the moves that he's made prior to now, whatever happens going forward is his responsibility, because he has been an active participant in whatever our future air traffic control and our airport security is going to be. He has been actively involved, and it bears mentioning. Fired the head of the Transportation Security Administration, fired the entire Aviation Security Advisory Committee, froze hiring of all air traffic controllers, and that's saying nothing of the fact that we all know that they have been overworked and understaffed. Fired 100 top FAA security officers all on the same day. And I'll say it one more time before I go. This is the president's baby, whatever happens going forward. And as our leader, I'm not one of those people who's ever going to say, not my president. No, he's my president. He's your president. He's everyone's president. The country is chosen. And as our leader, as our president, he can't only be willing to take responsibility for the success, but also any responsibility for the failure too. For KFI AM 640, I'm Mo Kelly.
Opinion without the preach.
KFI
and KOST HD2.
Los Angeles, Orange County.
Live everywhere.